Today, I'm bringing sexy back to an inherently unsexy company, to an inherently unsexy business case. And when it comes to the stock market, there's hardly anything that can accomplish that task better than yields, profits, gains. Yes, baby, I'm talking green candles being printed big time. Hello and welcome to another video by HKCM Global. My name is Joe, and as just teased before the intro, today we're gonna take a look at a company that follows an inherently unsexy business case. However, they really managed to pull off massive gains with that. And besides massive gains, what they also do is bring huge stability to your portfolio like they brought to mine. And before I'm gonna tell you what company I'm talking about in just a sec, you know, I originally grew up in Germany, and there we had a saying that translates into English somewhat like taking care of one's own shit. And what that saying meant and how it was used is usually when somebody is like super nosy and wants to dug up things that he has no business knowing, one would usually say, hey, take care of your own shit. And what that then meant was that you want him to leave you alone and he should just care about his own life and stay out of yours. So why am I telling you this? The company that we are gonna talk about today is a company that does exactly the opposite of that. So they basically, literally, take care of other people's shit. I'm talking about American Waterworks, the biggest water management company in all of the US. What is a water management company, you might ask? So usually every single drop of water that goes down the kitchen sink, every single drop of water that flows through your bathtub, every single drop of water that gets flushed down in your toilet, of course ends up in the sewage system, and from the sewage system, of course, it has to be recycled, it has to be cleaned, it has to be properly processed before it can return into the freshwater system at some point. And that's why today we're talking about American Waterworks, the biggest water management company in the US. And when I say the biggest, they actually are quite a bit smaller than you might expect, because they only serve around 14 million people all throughout the US. And while that might seem not that big, considering the US has a total population of around 330 million at this point, I believe. So those 14 million equate to not even 5% of the total population of the US. Those water management facilities, those water management companies usually are like smaller local ones that only serve a certain district or maybe even only a couple of blocks inside a city, dependent on the size of the city, dependent on the whole sewage system. So it's actually rather rare that a company really supplies millions and millions of people with fresh water, with recycled water, with their water management services. But American Waterworks does exactly that. And what they did is basically they took this super boring business and they scaled it up. They optimized the whole process, they digitalized a little bit, and now they have been buying many different water treatment facilities all throughout the country. So it's not like they operate in one single space and they supply, I don't know, like the whole of Los Angeles or something, but they supply many different regional areas all throughout the US, and they are all under that same mantle, under that same cloth of American Waterworks, and are traded on the stock exchange. And in case you are now wondering, why should I own such a boring company? Why should I own a company that takes care of other people's dirty water? That's like not sexy at all. I mean, I get the idea of owning Apple stock. I get the idea of maybe owning a Coca-Cola or Nvidia. That's attractive business cases with huge growing potential. Why should I stick with a company that cleans dirty water? And I'm gonna tell you why. So, you know, not all stocks are created equal. And if you wanna divide stocks in like two camps, you can do so by labeling them in the camp of cyclical stocks and in the camp of non-cyclical stocks. And every single healthy portfolio out there should have a healthy mix of both cyclical stocks and non-cyclical stocks. And so what are those? Cyclical stocks are companies like, for example, tech companies, like an Apple, like maybe a Microsoft, fashion brands, Nike, for example. So those are all stocks that go with the cycle of boom and bust. So whenever there's a boom cycle, companies like Nike, like Apple, for example, they will rise with the cycle, and as soon as a recession hits heavily, stocks like Nike and Apple will also suffer heavy losses in their market cap, because if people have lesser money, if the economy is tight, then of course you might maybe want to delay the purchase of your newest iPhone a couple of months, or maybe even a year, maybe a whole generation of iPhones into the future. You might maybe not want to buy the newest Nike shoes. And so that's why in a recession, those kind of companies, those cyclical companies, get beaten up heavily, and they also lose, of course, their value on the stock exchange. They have to maybe cut prices to still keep the revenue coming. That's all those kind of things that cyclical companies have to do in order to survive. However, non-cyclical companies, like a water management company, like maybe a mobile service provider, do not suffer from those very same consequences. For example, if a recession comes in and you really struggle to meet ends needs, would you ever cancel your mobile service provider, or would you stop flushing your toilet at home? Probably not. So those kind of non-cyclical companies, like mobile service providers, like water management companies, those always have their revenue coming in. They don't need to offer any kind of special rebates, any kind of special offers to keep revenue coming. They have a fixed revenue and they don't have to worry about recessions coming because they usually remain unaffected. And that, in a nutshell, is why you need in your portfolio cyclical and non-cyclical companies. And that's why we're going to take a look at American Waterworks, which is one of my favorite non-cyclical companies and one of those where I, in the future, plan on loading up heavily. So diving right in the 2-day chart, you can see here, ever since we have established our top in September of 2021, or in December of 2021, we've established our most recent top, and we have concluded that one to be a wave 1 top. And ever since, we've been in A, B, C correction. So far, we only concluded the A, and we are in the process of finishing up the B wave. And that internal B wave here, where we are in the middle of, is internally likewise comprised of an A, B, C wave. And within that internal A, B, C wave of the B wave, we are currently in the process of finishing up the B wave, bringing in a new lower low. And from that lower low, we expect a pivot point. We expect the wave B internally to be finished and to start a new C wave, which would then in turn complete the overreaching B wave. And then after that overreaching B wave would be completed, we see another even lower wave coming in, another lower corrective wave coming in, that so-called then C wave, which would conclude that whole big overreaching wave 2 that has been in the development ever since that top in December of 2021. And so maybe at this point you were wondering, why did we have here a target zone in when we expect a lower low to come still? I'm gonna explain to you, no problem. So you see from that target zone over here, even from the very upper end of that target zone, we have already up until now seen gains of almost 20%. So 20% in a super solid business case, in a big company, in a non-cyclical stock, that's good gains, nothing to complain about. We have seen already 20% gains, and we don't see the limit. We don't see the end yet reached of that upwards move. So as I just showed you here, from this current point in time, we are sure, fair enough, we are a bit lower than the entry if you were to have entered, and if you were to not have sold over here, and you're still in that position, up until the top of the B wave that we expect somewhat soon to be reached, that would be another 50% almost. And so only then, only after that alleged 50% of gains, we would see this sharp drop in the stock, and we would only then see lower lows coming in even below $94 per share. And so even though in the bigger time frame we still see decreases in the stock price, we still see a lower low to be printed, in the meantime, up until then, we still see huge potential for gains being made. And over here in that, you also see that this zone here is not a usual target zone. We have target zones and we have trading areas. Those blue ones are always trading areas. Those are big long-term entry points. So target zones like this one here, the grayed out one, those are usually for smaller mid-term moves, for smaller gains to be made. And those big blue ones, they always are so-called trading areas. So big overreaching pivot points. And so from that point, whenever that trading area is going to be reached somewhere in the next months, maybe 1 to 2 years, I personally would be planning on loading up heavily. And to show you even more clearly on why I'm such a big fan of American Waterworks, let me show you something. You see here, I mean, do I need to say more? Look at their chart. What a solid company. What does that all mean? So I just told you that back in September of 2021, we have here established a major high. And if we go back 10 years, so that would be September of 2011 up until September of 2021. So that is over 500% gain. So over 5x in those 10 years. I mean, still, it's 10 years, fair enough. But in a company as solid, as stable as American Waterworks, I mean, look at their chart. Do you see that super stable, solid upwards trend? There is no huge dumps, there is no huge recessions to be seen anywhere. That's like the picture perfect example on why you need non-cyclical stocks in your portfolios, because during that time an Apple, maybe an Nvidia, all those kind of stocks, Nike, they would have had huge upticks and down moves. But a company, a non-cyclical company like American Waterworks, just keeps going super stable. I mean, of course, they have corrections here and there. Every stock does, but as a whole, they're much more stable than those cyclical stocks. And so that's why I'm a huge fan and why I will be loading up heavily in that target area over here, in that trading area over here. Because if American Waterworks does such a good job cleaning out the shit of 14 million people, they can probably do a very good job of cleaning out a little bit of the shit in my portfolio. And if you want to see more interesting and maybe even odd kind of companies like this one that we just talked about, if you want to get a daily analysis, you might consider subscribing to the channel, turn on the bell notification so you will never miss another video that we'll be pumping out, and we'll be pumping out a bunch of those, like multiple videos a week. Promised. And if even beyond that you're interested in our daily market analysis service, which we will be supplying shortly in your country of residence, you might also please want to go down to the video description. There is a link taking you to a landing page where you can fill in your email address. And as soon as we have our market analysis service ready to roll out in your country of residence, you will get notified. Up until this point, we only supply our daily market analysis service in Central Europe. But somewhere in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, we'll be ready to supply internationally, worldwide, our daily market analysis service, where you will get updates just like this one on over 200 different stocks, fresh updates every single day on every single market movement. You will get notifications, you will get push notifications inside your app. If that sounds at all interesting to you, please go down to the description, fill in your email address on that landing page. You do not make any purchase yet. You will only get notified as soon as we are ready to roll out that service. No obligation to you at all to ever take up that offer, but should you not put your email address in there, you will not get a huge discount offer as soon as we launch. So I would definitely do that. I would not want to miss that opportunity. But up until then, we will definitely see each other on next video in only a couple of days. So take care.